iHeartSEC. I'm your host, Joe Bombo. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Bombo ENT Group. So just last week, I seen a post that reflected on Bruce Pearl and how we as parents, and yes, I say we because that's exactly what I am, but how we as parents should question sending our child to be coached by Coach Pearl. And not to get off topic, but I traced back to that post that they were referring to. And man, once you go through the comments, and I've never been a follower of Kirk, but there was a montage video posted. And once I watched that video, it literally took me off track. Because I'm not a scholar by any means of civil rights law or history, but I seek information and history. And I know a good bit, to say the least. And some of the things that were debated, I could literally trace back the laws and different social and economical constructs that people tend to gloss over. And I say that because a post from Coach Pearl opened up that trauma and the trauma to those that were affected. We need to consider that when we choose to share condolences in some of these situations. It's like if someone sent out condolences to Kanye West, there will be someone that will be triggered by the trauma of the words he expressed towards them or their group. So when I read this post, it stated, quote, "Dear parents, be very careful who you allow to coach your children. A coach's job is much more than wins and losses. It's important to know how they view people who look like your children, who aren't their players, who make their money." And that was by former Syracuse player Etan Thomas, who went on to play in the NBA and have a successful career. In simple terms, these players are assets to coaches. Brian Kelly once said, "I chose to put my family's livelihood in the hands of 18 and 19-year-olds. And that's a very true statement if you take on this profession. And vice versa. As parents, you trust your kids under these coaches' tutelage. So rather than go down the whole ideological and political track, I'm going to keep this on the straight and narrow. And when the politics do not align with your players and the parents of those players, and they seem to directly oppose them, you need to step aside. Get out the way. And I really mean out the way, not just step down and put your son in that same position. And I don't want to lump the two together because as times go and our kids grow, they tend to sometimes believe differently than us. Or do they? Because I teach my child that ability doesn't fall to the responsibility of the teachers or the coaches. That falls on me. And I teach them about my beliefs, my experiences, the knowledge I've gained from this world through experiences. And as a coach, your job is to do the same. So what happens when the experiences are jaded? How do you relate to someone who might have come up from the polar opposite? How do you handle those moments when personalities collide, when they don't look like you? Or do you go after the players that toe the line, that don't push back? Because growth comes from challenges. And even as a coach, the players should challenge you. That's where character is formed. But those that don't want to be challenged on certain topics, they find discomfort being under that scrutiny and typically lash out or form resentment. Is that someone you love to coach your child? Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that was a Bruce Pearl coaching style. But these are the typical things that can present themselves. And let me give you a story. When I was 16 years old, playing football. Me and one of my friends, we had a jokingly practice, but after the practice, we were waiting on our ride to come, and one of the coaches came up, and I can remember he had the dip spit in between his teeth, and he came up and was just lashing us out and talking about how, we were this and that, and how we were going to end up on the streets selling and doing all these other things. And I say that because I didn't know much about this world at 16, and most 16-year-olds don't. But for a grown man 3 times my age to put that on me when I knew nothing about that life at that time says more about him and his view than it said about me. That's experience. Not everyone is subject to that prejudice. So the news circles around Monday that Coach Pearl has resigned as head coach. And I was quite surprised at that it came when it did. Some could say he was thinking he's pursuing politics, but from the reports, he was moving into administration role. But from the reports and the news that I had seen, my first thought went back to that Charlie Kirk post and how this could have made some potential or gained some potential backlash that helped sway him into doing something that he had already been considering, regardless of what the reports insinuated. And if that's the case, good on Auburn, because we know he said some things in the past that some will disagree with. And when you continuously drop those breadcrumbs of insensitivity towards race and creed in the nature of free speech, you will offend some. And some of those you offend just might be the players or the parents you intend to recruit into your program. That's not good for Auburn. But here's my issue, and this is very relevant to the Target situation when they succumb to the DEI policies. The CEO steps down. Yes, the headline is flashy, and those that are just surface level feel convicted. But then when you dig deeper, he didn't actually step down. He transitioned to a better role, a higher paying role. So he in actuality was promoted and just removed from the face of the company. Sort of like polishing a cracked mirror. No, you replace the mirror. You remove the mirror. Hell, even in some cases, you get a whole new dresser set. But polishing the cracked mirror is exactly what Auburn is doing. And this shouldn't fly. You elevated Pearl amongst the controversy, and you replaced him with his spawn. So, to that, I say congratulations, Auburn. You're doing a great job of setting the precedent for future athletes of color who want to attend your institution. And I want to go ahead and give some credit to other content creators that had the courage to discuss this topic that most wouldn't dare touch. And that would be Around the Association, who I listened to their view on that, and The Collision, where sports and politics collide. You can check out their messages on their respective YouTube channels. Make sure you follow on all social media platforms. Please like, share, and let's engage in commentary. But in commentary, some just choose emotions versus actual fact. So if you want to call me an idiot, please do. Hell, if you disagree, here's your chance. Just write idiot in the comment section so we know where you stand. Because at the end of the day, I could give a damn. I'm always going to give my unmitigated truth. I'm Joe Bombo, and this is iHeartSEC.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard.
Toughness of the SEC. And it's a clash with character and quality people as well as talent. You know, those guys have so much pride
I have to be better in every aspect of my game.
This is iHeartSEC
with Joe Bombo.
We need more dogs.